What's good with YouTube? You already know, Big Flacco from ACP, the Convicts Perspective. Hoping everybody's having a positive, productive day. We're about to do a banging video again, once again. But before we do so, let's hit the like, comment, and if you ain't subscribed already, so please subscribe. Hit that bell notification for future fire content. Now, as you can tell by the title and thumbnail, we're going to talk about a time when politics really came into play in my career, where I was in a position of authority in running a regiment right there in DVI Tracy. And you had those that were spreading false rumors and gossiping, right, without facts. Now, it all revolves around an individual named Ernesto Perry, Chino from Manteca. Chino had a long career as a bro. He goes back to like maybe the early 90s. He was out there on the integration yards handling business. Now the dude had hands. He was a beast. He was really with that action, right? But his activity started to show a little bit that he was acting like a J-cat, that he was losing his mind. On one occasion, I heard him yell at the correctional officer talking about, "I know what you're doing. I know you guys are playing with the radio waves," and just fucking snap at a CO one time, you know? Another time, the PCs that were in L1 while we were in the yard 4 and tracing the hole, he was sitting there walking, and they were talking smack to him, and they were throwing water and piss and all kinds of stuff, and he went and licked it from his arm like just a weirdo. And he started to make a lot of different types of almost like threats, like that if he wanted to, he'd come out here with a piece of the yard and handle his business, and all kinds of stuff that was kind of unnecessary. Okay, now I hadn't even bumped heads with him. Okay, and he at one point started to make threats on the tier and on paper towards other races that were right there in Tracy. He had called Jesse Turner, right, an NLR from Tracy, a faggot ass 1-yarder, right, a pussy ass 1-yarder, right, and a kite to him. Said, "I'll see you on the streets." He had sent a filter to the whole fucking unit, right, the whole side. I think we were on the west side, right. I forget. We're on the side that faces the yard, and it was to every race, and it was about that there was a pirate station in Corcoran. That there was a program called the HARP program that used low frequency radio waves to play with people's minds. Now the HARP program does exist, and it is about low frequency radio waves, right? But there was no proof to what he was saying as far as it was used, you know, to control criminals and prisoners and whatnot. Then he signed it Beowulf Agadi, which is basically from one of Robert Lilland book, The Matter of Circle, who's like a special agent that slays monsters and all kinds of crazy shit, man. It was just a crazy ass kite, man. Then he went on to fucking threaten, like I said, other races on the tier. Now, he had about 2-3 days to the house, I believe, and we had to call for his removal. He was insulted out for a long time, right? He had made threats. He had done all kinds of stuff, disrespected other races. He did everything to present himself as a threat, not only towards other groups, but towards us. So I ordered him removed physically. Okay, and the reason why I ordered him removed physically was I wanted to give him the opportunity to clean it up, have a higher authority review the whole case, and see where we go from there, based upon the fact that he'd been an insult dollar for a long time. He gets removed, right? Which, man, it took a lot of people that had to get involved, right? I, as the overall authority of that prison right, at that time, right, had involved myself. I had to jump in and put him down. And I ended up getting a 115, which I beat and was placed back in the yard a month later. But during that time I wasn't in the yard, next thing you know, you have individuals like Joe Ramirez, Travieso, Chuco from Stockton, all these cats that had been in DVI and been part of the chain of command for a long time started pulling up. And now they knew who I was, but this was like their backyard. This was like me being in San Quentin. So all the stuff that I had implemented, including the removal of Chino, who they looked at as a close homeboy of theirs, they started to question. Okay, they tried to press up what happened, what it was all about. And I had to get at Travieso and Chuco real tough, telling them, like, look, the previous dude that was here should have never been holding the position he was, which was Big Tone, gangster from fucking Stockton, right? Now, who I ended up deeming no good afterwards, because he didn't follow directives, sitting in a kite that was in a business to the streets. And when he came back, he was on walk alone out of nowhere. That was interesting. Now, After Travieso and Chuco seen everything that fucking I did, right? They were fucking kind of like, they gained a lot of respect because I had to reestablish that whole fucking facility. Not only that, right? I had to deal with all this different politicking that was coming from individuals that had just got there, which pretty much I stood 10 toes down, politicked back, and pretty much won. Okay? Now, next thing you know, about shit, 2 weeks after they got there is when Chino came back, and he came back for fucking threatening the Manteca Police Department to blow it up with a bomb. And when they came, he came out with a knife and pulled it out on them and threw it on the ground and just was doing JCAT shit. So, Travieso was the NT at that time. They conducted all investigations and DPs for DVI at that time. So he ran the investigation as far as on Chino. And after all the fucking questions and all that, he said, this dude's lost his mind. He goes, I see why now he got removed, and there was no question or doubt to the decision I had to make. The dude was saying some fucking crazy ass shit, telling the homeboys that he was under the heart program. Literally. When Travieso said, hey, what happened, woo woo, he said, you already know what time it is, homie. I'm under the heart program. And everybody was just like, what the fuck? So, there was other individuals though, right? An individual named Michael Littleman from Saho, who was older, who was close with Chino. Now, Chino wrote him a letter and attached my name to it and sent it to Tehachapi Shu and talked about what happened, right? So next thing you know, Michael's writing a fucking letter back talking about he wishes he was there, he would have backed him up, and who are these dudes, they're going to be in trouble, all this shit, right? Talking all this smack, okay? Not even knowing what happened, but just basically fucking acknowledging that fucking Michael or Little Man was 100% right as far as everything that he had heard from Chino, and that the Carnals and Tehachapi, which there was 3 at that time there, are gonna back his play, and that DBI was under question. Now, what people didn't realize is that I had contact with Chuco and also had contact with the streets at that time. So I had all the right channels to reach out to, whether they were on the state or federal side. I could reach out at any moment with codes and whatnot. I had the letter Xeroxed, right? I had all the investigation into Chino's situation, the exhibits and all that Xeroxed, right? As well as everything else that had been going on, from the Wolfpack situation that I had the green light to several individuals that had to be removed, to individuals that were falsifying their, street reg status, and all kinds of different situations that I had to sit there and deal with, including, strip people of their statuses and, put a couple individuals on freeze, a couple no decisions for higher authority review, and a couple decisions I had made. Had all that, and I Xeroxed a whole bunch of copies. See, this is where I used to always cover my ass when I was in the authority position. I didn't just have one kite with all the details. I'd have several bundles with the same information to make sure that it got to where it needed to get to. Now, I wanted to make sure that all this information got to 4 different places. 1, Tehachapi Shu. 2, Corcoran and Pelican Bay. And the last one to the streets. So I wrote a kite to Tehachapi. Higher authorities there in Tehachapi Shu. And pretty much in the kite, I pretty much did a paper lashing, right, based upon this dude Michael Littleman's fucking letter that he sent into Tracy, and told them that they needed to pump their brakes with their manpower, just communicating freely with individuals here and making a judgment without even being there, that how could this individual be allowed to talk out freely and speak on a situation that he is not present there for, and then trying to cross up individuals here, right, when this household has been reestablished, that I'm here, right, everything is within the branch and union, and that places like DVI, Delano, and San Quentin are revolving doors or reception centers. The leadership that is there is not always there for the long term. Where my standings and stats was at that time, man, is I felt comfortable to be able to reach out to the Carnals there in the way in which I did, because it needed to be done. And I definitely had pumped my chest out because this dude, Michael, old school bro, right, hermano, wasn't there when I was there. Talking about the people that were there are no good. And I took that personal, because whatever transpired previously with the dude that was previously there, I deemed that dude no good when he returned. He should have never been holding that position, okay? And all the infractions and bylaws, violations he had committed, he didn't even want to go to the fucking yard. But that's beside the point. The whole thing is if you let someone sit there and start to slander and spread false rumors and gossip, then basically you're just going to be a sitting duck for consequences if you don't stand up on your own 2 feet. You got to get ahead of the curve on situations like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you're able to politic and not get crossed up in those scenarios. Like literally the Bay, Corcoran, and Tehachapi all got the same WILA, the same reports, and my address was to Tehachapi. And I pointed out that allowing individuals like this Mikeel to basically speak and gossip and whatnot and interact with someone that's part of a whole different household in the way in which he was could put individuals' lives in danger over information that is not true. And that any gossiping or any speaking about DVI at that time, that they were to pump their brakes because what they hear changes all the fucking time. You know what I mean? And this just came after a situation after I had just had to address Dancing Bear in which the same way about a month before when he sent some individual named Smiley from Sanho, right? In which Smiley been a long time bro, but I wasn't there when all this occurred. And what it was he got into the household and he was an NF associate, pretty much being educated by, Dancing Bear. He's old school, older bro. But he wasn't being given the same, acknowledgement, respect that he thought that he was supposed to be given just as a bro. And that was by the previous leadership, right? But even so, what I seen was someone that just wanted it their way. And you got to earn everything that you do and put forward. Because he was already had to get shut down because he was trying to recruit Smiley was trying to recruit at that time Travieso Joe Ramirez for Dancing Bear to start a regiment out there in Modesto. And I had to shut that shit down because at that time, Travieso was kind of eager to start, putting together a regiment. I said that shit can't be held or those conversations can't be discussed here. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to get a Dancing Bear about a couple things, like don't intervene in this regiment first and foremost. And to sit there and say that, this individual is being mistreated, that's by a whole previous leadership. I'm not here to say it happened or didn't happen, but it's not going to happen now, and I'm here. Which I will say this, Dancing Bear, pretty much had a lot of support towards me on two other incidents. One being some stuff that was brought up from San Quentin that was bullshit. And even in this situation, you know what I'm saying? He didn't get offended like he could have because I kind of pushed back on him a little bit, man. Now, eventually I got to Corcoran, who had already received those reports, and there was no follow-up report requested. Tehachapi really didn't say any response that individual was dealt with, as far as whatever DP they decided to impose was imposed, and there was no longer people that were able to communicate with certain individuals. They were now enforcing, a little bit more stricter rules because they had became lax about individuals communicating with other prisons, and this is how people get their wires crossed. And that was exactly my point, man. People were politicking without knowing what happened. This dude Chino had a long career as a soldado, right? Put in a lot of work, was no punk, but he became a JCAT at the end of the day. And he became a threat to the household, therefore what needed to be done was done. The way in which I was filing my reports up to the Bay and Corcoran, it showed the type of education that I had, that I knew what I was doing and that I was taking care of things and I was improvising where it needed to be. From a partial B&L, right, to rosters, to all the reports, right, investigations, to all fines. And at that time, a lot of people were being fined for not honoring Bond 13, like for the second, third time. All those that were stripped from their Ensoldal status to a Northerner. And those that had fines that they owed, basically the instructions I gave them was, instead of trying to collect the fine for DVI, which could have got me in a lot of trouble, I directed them upon parole to check into the local regiment and report the fine that they owe and let them deal with it from there, and that the Bay would be very aware of those individuals that had been fined. That in regards to any of this, they could either tap in with the San Jose Regiment or with Chuco if they need to get at me further. The most serious and dangerous type of politics are the politics within your own group. Because there's a lot of things that go into it, and you have to be able to cover your ass. You have to be able to have knowledge of your bylaws. You have to know how to run investigations. You have to know how to articulate yourself to where people get what you're trying to convey. There's a lot that goes into politicking, and not everybody can do it. As long as your reports stick to the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, why. As long as your reports stick to the 5 W's, and as long as your research and investigation sticks to all that, that's your template, you can pretty much overcome any situation and not get crossed up. It's when people go off their own free will of what they think or what they feel or what they insinuate or assume is when shit can go backwards for somebody real quick when it comes to prison politics. With that said, it's your boy Flacco, ACP. I'm out.